Hey, y'all. If you want to head to our website to check out all the different things Pizzazz offers, then just head to pizzazzart.com. That's PZAZZART.com. You will see our online memberships. We've got Kids Club memberships, our Lettering Club membership, our one project a month membership. We call that Paint and Praise. You will see some freebies that we've got there for you, and you'll see our local classes if you're local. So head to the website, check it out, pizzazzart.com, PZAZZART.com. All right. Hey, y'all. This is Casey Hope with the Here's Hope podcast. And today we have a special guest, Margo Smith, on with us. She has been a Lettering Club member for quite some time. And I think she has a really cool way that she uses the club to connect with friends that I think you are going to just like to listen into. So welcome, Margo, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I was real excited to join you today.
Yeah, if you could just give us a little background of you with art, lettering, all the things.
I was actually in art in high school. It was kind of one of my safe zones. I was in band and art, and I loved it, but I always felt like I wasn't really as good as some of the others. So I had that stinking thinking that you talk about sometimes. So for a while, I didn't do as much with art. And then I started doing some things with my children and learned that I really do love it. And it was kind of a therapy for me. So, I've just always had somewhat of an art background, and I've always done things with my kids growing up and things like that. I've been with the Lettering Club since almost the beginning. I think I came in on the second round.
Oh, I thought you were the first round. I thought you were the original OG. Look, I count you as an original member.
Well, good. Well, I've known you for so long too. And that was one thing, I would come to your classes, and then every time I would come to your class, then I would want to do something else. So, when you first opened it, and I remember too, right before you opened the class, my daughter and I came, and I think it was in the fall or something, we painted a pumpkin, and she had one of your helpers letter hers, and I lettered mine, and I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when the lettering thing, I was like, okay, that's, that was just my sign. Okay, I don't like what I did. I like the painting part. I just didn't like the lettering. And I was just self-conscious about it. And I thought, I know it's something as simple as just practicing, but I really didn't know, I don't know. For me, sometimes I have to have some kind of, okay, if I'm paying for it, I'm going to make sure I do it. That was the main reason I joined, honestly. And I remember one of the things you said too, that kind of stuck with me was, lettering is art. If you just look at it as lines, which is something our art teacher had also told us,
which we had the same art teacher in high school. Yes,
we did, Miss Parker. And I loved her. And it was just a good connection for me. Growing up, I had some interesting growing up years. And so I connected a lot with my teachers and things at school. And Miss Parker was one of those that I really had connected with as well. But that's just kind of, the backstory on that, on what got me interested in the art even more again.
Well, I love, when you were just talking about, the lettering, I was the same way. I could paint, and I was embarrassed that I couldn't letter. And so when I swapped my thinking to, wait a second, I can draw. And lettering is just drawing letters. Like it just like something just clicked in my brain that I can learn this. If I know how to draw, I'm going to start drawing letters. And once I taught myself, and I had a horrible lettering beforehand, that's when I knew, like, I can teach you. Like, if you're willing to practice, I can teach you this. And so,
right. And I think too, a lot of things in the decor, there was a lot of lettering coming out more. And I like to have Bible verses or certain things like that. I like to have them in my house where I can see them. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do that too, is I like, there's certain ones that speak to me at different times. And in our home life, I have two daughters, and I'm married. My oldest daughter has been chronically ill for a long time. So this has been about 12 years going on now. And so there's a lot of times we're going through different things with her, and there's just verses that I cling to during those seasons. And so that's just something that now I can write them out myself. And I don't have to go find something or print it off or things like that. And then I know you had mentioned too about how I do my art. I have a best friend who, once I started going to some of the classes, she was like, oh, this looks kind of neat. And we have always done like coffee dates together. That was just something we've always done because she works and I don't. And then we started just combining it with coffee and art. And so, and then she joined the lettering club too, because she saw all the neat things that I was getting to do. And especially at first, I posted more. I'm trying to start posting a little bit more now because it's interesting. People see it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love that! I could never do that." And I'm like, "Oh yes, you can." You know, and that's honestly how I've gotten people. And I love people.
Yes, you do. I love that about you. I love that about you.
Well, thank you. I guess some of that's just how I operate. That's how God made me. I need to be around people. And some of that over COVID was hard just because I had to be very careful again, because of my daughter. But I would post something and someone said, oh my gosh, I just love that. And so then we would just invite that person to join us.
Fun.
So, so there's just been different times that we've done things like that. But basically my best friend and I, Nikki and I, she just, it's
now, how long have y'all been best friends?
Well, we actually knew each other in high school. So we knew each other a long time. We've probably been best friends since my youngest, Alyssa, who's 21, since she was about 3 or 4. So a long time, but we've known each other for a long time too. She moved to high school here in like 10th grade. And that's when we knew each other. We went to church together. So we have that, kind of same background, and our kids are similar ages.
I love that y'all prioritize this whole time. That's hard sometimes you have friends and especially when you're like the kids are younger and then they're going through these different stages and then they're in ball and cheer and all the things. It can be hard to stay connected to friends. So I love that y'all already had things like in place. Okay, we're going to have a coffee date every so often.
Right. Yeah, and it's just some of it, like we've talked about before too. Some of it is kind of I joke that it's my therapy too, but it's good for both of us. And
absolutely.
And more than even just the lettering, with sometimes she'll just see something. And for some reason, I guess this is just how God made me. I can just figure things out. I've just kind of always been that way. So she'll see something and it'll be a project of some sort. And she's like, okay, can you figure this out? And we just set a time, to do it. And
well, explain that, because I see that visually, because you take pictures of your little art dates and I see what that looks like visually inside of our Facebook group for the club. But explain that to somebody who's just listening. So what does this, this little art date look like? This time where you can invite one friend or multiple friends or whatever. What does it look like practically? How do you set it up? How long does it take? Does she bring stuff or do you provide everything? Like, what does that look like?
Okay. If we're doing a lettering project, she'll bring her stuff that she already has. Usually we set up a time to get together, and for us, Sunday afternoons work well. So we'll get together. Usually we'll go out, get coffee, go to either Starbucks or Eliano's, whatever, get coffee, come back to my house. Usually I actually have a craft room, but a lot of times we'll either sit on the back porch or at a table. I have like the extra supplies. She laughs that my house is kind of like a Hobby Lobby because I do collect things. But she'll bring her lettering box with her, whatever our Happy Mail was, and then we'll do it together. And usually we have a few projects, and so I'll text her and like 3 of the different projects or something. Like if we didn't do it the month before, I'll say, which one do you want to do? And then we'll figure it out like that. And then we just do the project and finish it. If it's something that needs to dry, we just leave it and she'll come get it later. And then there are just other times where she'll text me a picture of something and say, hey, I want to do this. Or another example, and then I'll figure it out and we'll do it. Another example is I had some cabinet doors and you had done something with cabinet doors.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, hey, I've got some cabinet doors. And so she's like, okay, well, do I need to, what do I need? And she'll like the paint or something if I need a certain color. So we just kind of, make it work.
Right. And to clarify for you listeners on cabinet doors, we are not talking about painting our actual cabinets. We had like I don't remember, where did I get that first batch from? I don't remember. Somebody gave me a bunch of cabinet doors and we were just thinking, well, what can we do on this? And it had some of that trim around it. And we just turned that big cabinet door into our canvas. And so we painted at the studio, we painted, like we added some like texture medium on there and painted these angels, but you could paint so many things on them. Like, just people that are tearing out their old kitchen cabinets and getting new ones, turn them into canvases. So
yeah, exactly. And we made, at the time we were doing it, we made ours into flags. And
oh yeah.
so I think there was something like that. So that was one of them. And I guess too, because people do see that I do projects and all, I guess it's something that I get, like I said, I think God just kind of placed it into me, that it's something that helps me and that I like to do. And then I want to share it with others. So we even have a larger group. There's 6 of us that we call ourselves the Girlfriends from God. And we meet at least once a year. We go on a weekend together and things like that. And even on that, I started bringing a craft. And I think the first, and everyone kind of knows that I'm going to do it. And now it's to the point where sometimes they'll ask me to do something, like they wanted something with pictures from all of us through the years. So I did, some scrapbook paper and a 12 by 12. And then I brought the Posca markers and we all signed it.
So many different little ways that, yes, it's art, but it's friendships and it's memories and, it's quality time with friends that the art and the lettering are just kind of the centerpiece that brings everybody to sit around, kind of like how a table does. Very much food table is a centerpiece for everybody to come sit around and talk and laugh. And that sounds like what you are doing with art and with lettering, the projects that we provide plus other ones. Tell me, you said that sometimes y'all will go through and look at the club. So just in context again, for people who are
yes, right. In context, life gets crazy. And obviously my daughter, who is chronically ill, I have to travel to different states with her. So, you just get behind. So occasionally our happy mail will, kind of pile up and we won't get to do the projects every week. So I can always tell which ones we have done and we haven't done. So I just kind of leave them stacked. And I pull out the ones that I want to do first, because I do have my favorites.
And you don't have to do all of them. We like to give you lots of options. You pick and choose.
Exactly. And it is. And that's what's so nice about it. And so anyway, so I'll just go through and sometimes she'll tell me, hey, I really want to do this one, or there'll be one that I want to do, that kind of thing. And then, like I said, when we post these pictures, other people will chime in and say something about wanting to do it. And so we usually will just invite them. And it was interesting when I talked to you about this the other day, after I had just gone to our retreat, I was like, because now that COVID is over and we're getting together more, I'm still slowly trying to get back out there a little bit more. I was like, I need to just invite the beach ladies who are here, or something like that. And it's just, like I said, I think a lot of it's good for me. It's a way that I can share my faith too, and just remind myself. And when you're talking with others and you're doing art, you just open up a lot of doors and you get to encourage one another. And I think that's what means, I think, the most to me. And it just, and usually too, even with any of the projects, and you're like this too, you can make them simpler. And that's just what I do. If there's someone who's struggling, or you just kind of help them with it. And it's just something, it becomes something you're just doing together, and it just feels good too,
I love it. Love it. Tell me time wise, if you are doing, I heard you earlier say, hey, we'll just do maybe 3 projects that we hadn't done before. What I always try to tell people is this does not take as long as you think it's going to take. Like,
no, it really
sit down to do it. It just flows. So if you're sitting down and doing 3 projects from our video library, what time does that look like for 3 projects?
Usually with us, probably about an hour and a half, but we do like to talk, we talk and we take our time, we have our coffee with us and that kind of thing. Now, some of them are, especially some of them like the watercolors, we could do 3 of those in probably 45 minutes. Those don't take us very long. And especially now that both of us have been doing the lettering so long, we practice once and usually we've got it now. And then, but we've kind of, like, our husbands kind of know too that Sunday nights we don't cook dinner either. So they are on their own.
Perfect. Set those expectations. Okay. Exactly. I got friends coming over. I'm not cooking. We'll be in the art room. See ya.
Exactly. And it really has, you go through different phases when the kids are younger too. I think when you have different priorities and things like that, but you do eventually realize that if you're not filling yourself up, I just felt like, I don't think I got bitter, but I felt like I could have really gotten there easily if I did start doing something. And honestly too, I do go to counseling, and my counselor, that was one thing that she really stressed to me, is I needed to do something for me to nourish my soul and to and that just ended up being what it was. And it's just so much better to do things with friends, I think. I just needed that support too. And it's hard for me to ask for help a lot of times, but when you're talking and doing things like that and you have friends and you're doing your art and stuff, things just come up and you kind of start working through your life that way. So
I hope people really heard what you just said, that your counselor like gave you that advice. And I think there's somebody listening that needs to hear that for their own self. That you're pouring out a whole lot, and life can give you a whole lot. And if you are pouring out and not taking the time to do something for yourself, you are going to be drained.
And that's not good for you or your family or anyone.
And Margo, you have done just an amazing job of balancing a lot of hard stuff, but still having so much joy through it all. Y'all, Margo has not laughed on this podcast yet, but she has the most contagious laugh and joy. And she is so full of life. And I think that you can see, I don't know, you can just see, well, number one, you can see the Holy Spirit in you, no doubt, but you see that those extra things that you're doing to invest in friends and to invest in your mental health and into your creativity, that you see the fruits of it. You see the fruits of that with your joy and your smile and your contagious laugh. And I just love it.
Well, thank you so much. And you know, you're exactly right. I want people to see God in me. I want them to see that, you know, life can be difficult, but you can still have joy. And I do kind of joke sometimes that it's either laugh or cry. And sometimes I do cry because there is a season for that as well, and a time. But, you know, there's just so much joy that can be found. And when I focus more on that, I feel better myself.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just what it seems to be for me.
Well, I love it. Well, if somebody is listening and they're like, I would love to do this, I would love to have little art dates with some friends, what are any advice or tips you would give them on getting started with having their own art dates with friends?
I would just say, just make an appointment. Just someone that if they say, hey, I love that, just say, hey, why don't we do one together? And just do it. I mean, you just have to go ahead and set a time. Say, hey, can you come over such and such time? You know, I've never regretted getting together with friends.
Absolutely.
You know, I just never have. And the same thing is with the art. I would encourage you to just go ahead and set a date and a time, invite someone, you know, be it someone that's very close to you first. You could always do that, or have start with your best friend and say, hey, let's invite 2 other people. I actually did this years ago. Like, we were doing a wreath one time and someone said they liked our wreath. And I'm like, well, come over and we'll make another one.
I love it. You know, and that's a gift that you have, but anybody can do that. That's natural for you to say, well, come over. But some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not just going to tell somebody to come over. You know, that's because you have that gifting. But the truth is, even if that's not natural for you, you will benefit from it. You will benefit from being with other people. And I think what you said on just putting it on the calendar, that is the key to most anything that we want to accomplish. Exactly. You gotta put it on the calendar.
It is.
So just pull out that calendar, find you an open date, tell yourself, hey, this is going to be when I do my, you know, whether it's, you know, any kind of project for Margo, she's saying the lettering club, we have videos, tons of videos that you can just go through, pick which one. It's like Netflix, but for videos. You just go through the library, pick which one you want to do, set you a time that you're going to do it. And like she said, maybe just invite one person over to start with. And you're going to be so surprised at what comes out of that. It's going to be way more than art. That's what I love about everything about this club, about the studio, everything. It's never just about the art. It's going to be about the conversations that you have and the laughter and the real life that you share with each other and the prayers that you pray over each other. Like, it's so much more than the art, but the art does a great way of bringing people around the table.
Yeah, it's just a great bridge. It really is. And you know, God gave us that creativity as well. And I just have to kind of remind myself of that as well too.
Yep. Well, Margo, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your fun art dates. I hope this encourages somebody else to have their own art date. Put it on the calendar, invite a friend, and get to creating. Thank you so much for coming on today, Margo.
You are so welcome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. If y'all want to get text reminders of when new episodes are released, feel free to text the word podcast to 1-334-249-1818, and we will shoot you a reminder when a new episode drops.